Okay, so my last recording got cut off. So I was talking about what my handout would be, and I was talking about the schedule, yes. So the schedule or the calendar for the students to read because they're practicing their reading skills, maybe even their writing skills, and they're able to, it's their things, so they're able to connect with it on an even deeper level. And I would also encourage the parents to have their kids sign their own names to birthday cards or Christmas cards, and maybe even write a message for the other people. I know that the receivers will definitely love seeing how adorable they write. So let's see, my next slide is what methods of instruction will I use to teach the students? Excuse me. So for reading, I would start with the phonics method, where I would teach the letter sounds and the letter combinations to my students, and then we would move on from there. I would love to have this as a base knowledge so that my students, if they're struggling with certain words, they can sound out the letters and work on it themselves more independently. I would also use the whole word approach. I think that recognizing certain words is a really good way to learn how to read. But as I said, I think the phonics is a good way as well, because then with words that you don't know and words that you haven't learned yet, you can just sound them out. So my next slide is also what methods of instruction I'll use to teach my students. So in an article titled Best Practices in Teaching Writing, the author encourages making a positive atmosphere for the students. And to make the positive atmosphere is to establish learning would be able to make the classroom comfortable and safe for all the students. Sometimes kids are nervous to come to school because they don't want to be criticized for being stupid or slower than the other students. So I'd want to encourage a positive relationship between all the peers as much as I can. I would also want to use writers' workshops. I think that working with smaller groups on certain skills is a great way for all the students to benefit. They're able to be given time one-on-one with the teacher or in a small group so that they can voice their concerns or opinions on things that they need. And I also love the idea of writer's notebooks. I've read about two different versions of writer's notebooks. One is more of like a journal where the students free write and they can draw and color and write messages to myself or their parents or their friends, or even just write like a journal entry. And there I think that the students will feel less pressure to have correct spelling and correct sentence formation, so they'll be able to practice a little bit more. And then another version I read is the notebook, often a 3-ring binder, may contain whatever the teacher and student think are helpful. Some examples of contents are samples of the students' writings, works in progress, quick write exercises, polished pieces, and I think that would be great to have for the students to reference back to, and even the parents to reference back to see how far they really have came. My next slide is, how does assessment factor into your literacy into my literacy teaching? So assessment is an important aspect of teaching any subjects. We want our students to succeed, and to do that we need to know if they're struggling or how well they are doing. And I think that assessments should be done regularly to keep updated. Skills change and the students can master a skill overnight that we might not even have noticed. And I plan on using more informal assessments after I finish the lesson so that I know what students need more help in what areas. I also want to use assessments throughout the lesson to make sure that my students aren't falling too far behind. I think that the assessments are great documentation for milestone completion and learning new skills. Let's see, and then I have, how will I use the assessment? So with the information I get from my assessments, I will decide on how to proceed with our curriculum. If I see any students struggling with certain parts of our lesson, I will definitely wait to introduce a new topic until my students understand the current skill being taught or learned. I will also use my assessments to keep my students and their families up to date on how well they're doing in the classroom and what can be done to help with anything that's needed. My assessments will be used as a reference for other teachers and for myself for conferences and for grades. Okay, I think that's everything. And here are my resources used. The end.